I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace, find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the well-run suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders. Pushing up just like these boulders. This conflict like it's water, still this mercy. Take my chalice, seeking grace through all this malice. All these salty motherfuckers could give out.
Politics and senators, they all the same. Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and keep the receipts. I just want all of humanity.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I don't know why I'm not on the screen. Good morning. This is the Urban Conservative. We're going to talk about Still Can't Breathe, verdicts, violence in the system. But before we get into all that, we got independent music. And here is Don Tripp and Starlito, Butterfly Effect. And we'll be right back right after this.
Yeah. Step brothers. For life. Yeah. Dear younger me, I know the poverty stings like a bumblebee. Although money isn't everything, ain't nothing free. Some of your friends are your enemies underneath. I know you really want to ball like the summer league, but you gon' tear your ACL trying to run the streets. I know right now you got a fist full of broken dreams, but you know fall kills every leaf that grows in spring, so it's coming back around. Be a little patient, let the tables turn. Hands on, making new mistakes, the only way you learn. Know you got a fist full of rage, cause you fatherless. You gon' have to channel it, or end up in a lot of shit. I've been where you are, I know how bad you wanna kill Mike, but mom might testify against you, they gon' give you life. You and Piff might fight every night, but if you knew what I know, you'd run and hug him tight. You hold on to your big brother for dear life, cause nothing lasts forever and it's life. But life is such a butterfly effect. You change one thing, you change everything else. So do what you do and keep staying true to you. You gon' make it through what you going through, I'm living proof. And if you wanna rap, only rap about the truth. Sincerely, from the older you. Now go and hug Piff. Butterfly effect. Change one thing, you change everything. Such a butterfly effect. If you change one thing, you change everything else.
Listen, man, you might be built for a different game, like R&B, risk and blame. Slow your roller, homie, take your time. You got time, you just ain't making time. Make them pay, don't let them patronize. Free your mind, ain't no telling what you may find. Keeping it real gon' take longer, you know the shortest distance, straight line. I'm here to tell you it ain't them, it's you. You could rap and finish school, adapt, don't let them limit you. You are good enough, you just always in a rush. Just had a high-speed chase with a car full of wood. Sometimes just let them have it instead of calling niggas bluff. Gonna have you fleeing from the scene like open a garage, I'm pulling up. Butterfly effect and it's collateral damage. My superpower is hindsight, I use that to my advantage. Beefing over nothing, I still don't understand it. On 10 toes is how you standing, but lil' homie, don't panic. You ain't going, even if they know it, they might take it for granted. You got better things to look forward to, like making a family, breaking generational curses. Yeah, don't play with your purpose, need to be mindful of what you say in them verses. Real shit, need to be wise about what you able to purchase. Seek out a bride, all of that player shit worthless. Let me be quiet, patient, virtuous. Why ain't put a baby in redacted? The butterfly effect and it's collateral damage. My superpower is hindsight, I use that to my advantage. Butterfly effect and it's collateral damage. My superpower is hindsight.
That was Butterfly Effect. Starlito, Don Tripp. Good morning. How is everybody doing? This morning, I wanted to start off with an investigation that Kerry Levin did about fraud and waste in Minnesota, right, with our programs that are supposed to help poor people. Now, with that being said, I want to get into how taxpayers were billed thousands for housing help clients say wasn't received. And there's proof behind it.
It's supposed to be a lifeline for those rebuilding their lives. But what our team uncovered is allegations of fraud, forged signatures, and tax dollars exploited. Here's AJ Legault with Housing Hustle, a new Recovery Inc. investigation.
Here we go.
You're on a stakeout with Carol Levin Investigates at an out-of-the-way office building in Brooklyn Park. The man getting behind the wheel and blacked out windows of that luxury ride runs a company called Leo Human Services. This is one of their advertisements. They're paid millions in tax dollars to help find and maintain housing for people with disabilities like substance use disorder.
I've never got an hour of help.
Stephen Smith is in addiction recovery. He says he found his own housing, but recently discovered Leo Human Services claimed to help him.
Yeah. Crazy.
That help billed to Medicaid for thousands of dollars.
We have a bill for $755 and then $531 again at the very bottom for another bill for $755.
Stephen remembers getting a few phone calls, but that's it.
I never met with them. I've never even seen them.
The Minnesota Department of Human Services oversees the Housing Stabilization Services, or HSS program. Their rules clearly state HSS services are medical Medicaid services, and some of them must be provided in person.
Who are you? You never helped me.
Stephen is not the only one to tell us they never met anyone from Leo Human Services.
Hundreds and thousands of dollars. I have no idea who this person is. None.
Due to safety concerns, Rachel Lean, Stephen's girlfriend, asked we not show her face.
I had never heard of this company. I never met with them. I never talked with them on the phone. I had no idea who they were. I'd never even heard of them before.
Carol Levin previously documented how Rachel signed up with another company called Brilliant Minds Services. They billed Medicaid for housing assistance she can prove
hundreds and thousands of dollars
did not happen. Her records reveal Leo Human also billed her Medicaid for $14,000 in just 8 months.
I was literally flabbergasted. Who is Leo Human Services? Who are they?
They are a for-profit company run by this man, Assad Adow, out of the Brooklyn Park office and this Blaine home where he still lives with his parents. State data shows Leo Human Services is one of the state's top 10 HSS billers, last year charging taxpayers $1.2 million.
Hey, Mr. Adow? AJ Legault from Carol Levin.
That's why I got a BMW.
Some questions, because we're hearing about clients that are saying
got a
you're fraudulently
BMW.
billing Medicaid in their name.
He did not want to answer questions.
They never do.
This is out of work. This is not the cool time, man.
Subpoena power. You gotta have subpoena power.
We have so much work to do. I mean,
anybody from the Fraud and Oversight Committee
People say
watching,
you're not
you
doing
gotta
it.
have
You're
subpoena
billing thousands of
power.
dollars for work that's not being done.
Come on, man. Let's take the proper channels, man. I'm doing everything I am correctly, and we can take the proper channels.
Well, you've got my contact information.
Since its launch in July 2020, HSS billing exploded. State data shows by the end of 2024, it had reached a total cost of $248 million.
And DHS has been warned. It's a program ripe for fraud.
The housing advocacy organization Hearth Connection issued a report to DHS last August following a statewide survey that warned reports of predatory activity to enroll individuals without their knowledge are increasing.
So that's something that needs attention.
However, at a January Senate hearing, then DHS Commissioner Jody Harpstead acknowledged yet downplayed concerns.
Because there's a lot of rumors of fraud more than there is actual fraud.
Stephen says what happened to him is no rumor.
Bad, bro.
At Carol Evans' request, he asked Leo Human Services for his client records. They emailed him this housing consultation, which says he legally signed it.
I did not sign this legal document.
Stephen points to the odd way his name is listed.
I've never signed my signature junior. Why would I say that I'm Stephen Junior Smith? Well, my middle name is actually Stephen Dwayne Smith.
Documents like this often leave a digital trail. Carol Evan extracted the metadata and found a bombshell.
Wow. Wow.
Stephen's signature.
Oh, man.
Which he allegedly signed on 8/28/23, was in fact authored the next day, 8/29, by someone named Watts Haneen.
Who's Watts Haneen?
I don't know who Watts Haneen is.
We have documentation that shows you provided this record, and it's allowing your company to bill for somebody, and their name, they didn't sign it. It looks like it was forged, sir.
Nothing was forged, man.
You got Nikes.
No answers, and today, no accountability for housing help. Clients say,
but a BMW.
There needs to be housing stabilization, but there needs to be, you know what I'm saying, accountability.
Accountability.
Full transparency, we don't know who Watts Haneen is. We just know their digital fingerprints are on this record as the author of Stephen's signature, and this record allowed Leo Human Services to bill his Medicaid for housing services he says he did not get.
Well, you mentioned the top 10 services for housing stabilization. Do you plan to go through each and every one? Because as taxpayers, I think we would appreciate if you did.
We are taking a look at a number of companies outside of the two that we have already reported on, and we're finding there's a lot of connections between those companies, same addresses.
And when you hear the former head of the DHS saying there's more rumor than there is actually fraud, what's your response to that?
I'd say you can just follow our reporting. We're finding tens upon tens of millions of dollars in Medicaid fraud right now.
And are you encouraged at all by what the government is doing? They seem to be interested, I know, in your reporting and starting these fraud departments.
They are certainly do seem to be taking this seriously. You know, there's fraud's getting a lot of attention up at the legislature right now, and they're trying to build out a more robust system to catch this, to use artificial intelligence maybe to help spot anomalies that we're finding by going through records.
And I know you're highlighting cases that were very egregious, but it just does seem like, is there any oversight?
That is the $1,000,000 question.
Right.
I know they're pushing at the legislature to create a statewide inspector general whose job it would be to look at this on a high level. And we've all heard what our former U.S. Attorney Andy Lugar said about there being a problem with fraud here in Minnesota. And I do know that a number of official investigations are being launched into what we've been exposing. I heard from DHS just today, and they told me they have open investigations now into Leo Human Services. And
so they didn't even have, that's crazy.
Excellent reporting once again. Thanks so much, AJ.
Wow. That's great to hear, because you know, a lot of people want to say they come from newspaper articles and things like that. But in my eyes, it's oh shit, it's not all. I don't know what the hell it is. There we go back. Yeah. But that's the crazy part to me, is because everybody went, oh, it's just made up. It's not real. It's not this. It's not that. And then it's like, what do you mean? It's not none of this. It's not none of that, because yes, it is. It is what it is. You can't portray anything other than what it is. It's the truth. No matter how much these people want to spin it. Oh, it's just a rumor. It's not just a rumor anymore. You know, that's the crazy thing of it, is because I said something to Marianne Rarick. I'm gonna share it real quick. Let me get to my profile. So you weren't there, Bobby Champion. So, no, there's some replies. But it's about the fraud and waste committee. Is that I was talking about Yay this morning, but Rorick had made a tweet and she said that here we go, another topic for the fraud prevention and committee. There is more fraud happening than we could cover during session. But see, to be honest, because in my eyes they didn't take it serious. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be 100% straight to the heart, right? That is something that I feel like Republicans, because they don't see it. They don't live in these communities where it's the fraud and waste was big, right? You're seeing people from, and again, I don't mean no disrespect to these Republicans, right? But when they're not in these communities, so they don't understand it. And then the crazy thing is they're being invited to, I'm gonna be 100% honest here, right? Is a lot of Republican legislators have been to these meetings, have been to, events put on by, they maybe not have known that fraud was going on. But that's the thing of it is that, like, even with Walter Hudson, that's why I don't fuck with Walter, or even AK Camaro, right? Is because of the simple fact of you have, again, like I'm gonna say, is greater Minnesota Republicans are people trying to take care of a situation they know nothing about. They know nothing. They want to get their information from the police, or they want to go to ex-officers from Maple Grove or Duluth, or things like that. No, wait, hold up. Maybe policing and all those things ain't like that in your area, but it's like that down here. It's like that in Minneapolis, right? Some of these, and that's what I don't understand, right? Because even I want to play with something else, right? And it's on. This is the Wedge Live, and I wanted to play this. This little. It's not very long, but it's the Ward 4 convention, and this is the Wedge Live. I don't think I've ever put the podcast up here or anything like that. But this is really interesting to watch, is because this is about the Ward 4 convention between Marvina Haynes and Patricia Vital. I know her name. But just listen.
Convention. Taylor is our correspondent from Ward 4. What are your thoughts?
It was a very strange moment to arrive and be insisted that I be given a floor pass as an observer. Mm-hmm. I tried telling the credentials team, I can't have this, I'm just here to watch. They gave me it. They kept telling me to have it. And then there was a moment where a large group of pro-Vita demonstrators paraded around with anti-Marvina signs, maybe enabled by the lax passing out of badges. So that was a weird moment. But, Marvina had, I don't know, it was like North Korea style numbers for Vita, unfortunately.
Do I have to play the North Korea song again?
I don't like this.
Okay.
Yeah, Marvina just, she has like people who support her, but it's just not enough of a backing, unfortunately, which is too bad because
good morning
deserves someone new in.
You showed me some of the signs, and it was kind of vicious. The signs, like, that doesn't really happen at DFL conventions where you have signs making fun of one of the candidates.
Yeah, they had photoshopped Marvina's face on someone else's mugshot. The woman parading it around, or one of the women doing it, was Bobby Joe Champion's sister, Nona Champion. Who I guess someone told me has a criminal record herself, while Marvina's never been arrested.
Right.
So a lot going on there.
What I know about Marvina Haynes is that she is the devoted sister of a man who was exonerated, wrongfully convicted.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I don't know, has always like behaved
correct
on TV. Whenever I see her on TV, because it's constantly in the news, just advocating for her brother and like smart and eloquent about it, and just a person who behaves with grace. I don't know. Maybe she's just worthy of all of this hate, but Ward 4 seems like a particularly nasty place for politics.
Yeah, I think that's, the Barb, coming from Barb Johnson, and then it's kind of how Vital runs things, and so that's just kind of enabled. I mean, the Sergeant at Arms was also just very confused and thought these people were pro Marvina, and so it was just like, oh, you can come back when she's speaking, and they're just like, fuck Marvina, and then he's like, oh yeah, you gotta get out of here.
right. I don't mean to laugh.
To Taylor's point, I would definitely say, like, going back to the Barb Johnson days, Ward 4 politics have been particularly vicious in a personal way that you don't see in a lot of other wards, that you're maybe starting to see a little bit more of now, especially with, people like Becca Thompson, who, was a beneficiary of the Barb machine when she got elected to Park Board. But also, if you look at the vile treatment that Philippe Cunningham received after winning his...
Patricia Vital was endorsed at the Ward 4 deal. Crazy. Taylor is our correspondent,
and that's the one part that, in my eyes, that they don't want to talk about, because the climate has changed. The political climate in Minnesota has changed, and something that I said this morning, right? Because I want to go back to what I was saying to Rorick and about the Fraud and Waste Committee, and I said, no disrespect. No disrespect, but Republicans knew all of this in 2023 when a presentation was shown how they forged signatures and also set up a DBA and pyramid schemes. I sat with this meeting for over an hour with Pam and Walter. That's the one crazy part, is because like everything that's come out in the last couple of days, right, with the end of the Fraud and Waste Committee and, all these things, it's like, wait, they knew it. Here's the crazy thing of it is that I really feel in my heart is that a lot of people, when it came to elected officials, even though they wanted to eradicate a lot of this bullshit, because in my eyes, it's helped the DFL get a really strong hold of the Twin Cities and Rochester because of Mayo Clinic. And then you have Duluth and St. Cloud. So they're really trying to get strong holds on these areas. And because if you look at it, that's the only reason why we're a blue state. And I'm not trying to make this political, but that is the only reason why Minnesota is a blue state. Let's be honest. It's because of Rochester, St. Paul, Minneapolis and St. Paul, and Duluth and St. Cloud. They have a major stronghold on them 5 areas. And then it goes out to even a little bit, maybe towards Winona a little bit. You have that's the one thing that I'll never regret, is that Red Wing said so progressive in a liberal area, but it's not. You have so many stuck-up ass white people, and I don't mean no disrespect, stuck-up ass people out there. I shouldn't put the white in there, but stuck-up ass people, because it's on both sides. It doesn't matter what color they are. They're stuck up. You have people out there that look like me, that some are even darker than me, are tokens. They're tokens, and they feel like, because what I don't understand is you have so many so-called people that are fighting for change in the Red Wing, but I really got to give it up to Amber Plank, because nobody else spoke out. Really, nobody really spoke out about the kids going to Hannah's Bakery. Now, if you bring it back to 2020, you've seen all that bullshit that Black people went through after George Floyd. And that's what I want to bring this into, is like what has changed since George Floyd, because we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary. The 5-year anniversary, and how many lives have been affected or changed because so much has happened. So with that being said, here is a report that majority say that George Floyd's death did not lead to positive change.
5 years, the 5-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, and we know how profoundly it changed the Twin Cities. But now we're also getting an idea of how it did or did not change attitudes all across the country. The Pew Research Center today released its new survey on looking at the nation's views of race, policing, and Black Lives Matter. Now, what the Pew Research Center is really good at is conducting longitudinal surveys. What they do is they ask the same question over periods of time to track changes in attitudes and beliefs. Now, 5 years ago, they started with this basic question, and that is, will George Floyd's killing improve the lives of black people? Now, back in 2020, 52% of those surveyed said yes, it would lead to change. But 5 years later, look at here the difference now. 20-point spread. 72% now say it did not lead to any change. So let's look at the next question. This one had to do with the relationship between police and black people. 5 years ago, I should say 5 years later, 54% say it's really still about the same. 33% worse. Only 11% say it's actually gotten better. So let's look at the support now for Black Lives Matter. In the days after George Floyd's death, the movement had a 67% support. By September, it dropped to 55%, and it doesn't remain much better today, 52%. You can see the spread here longitudinally over the past 5 years. And on black people actually having equal rights with white people, 49% said those rights have really not gone far enough. In fact, in 2025, that has dropped now to 43%, so you can see a shift there. And finally, we need to talk about the methodology. Pew talked to 5,000 people in this survey, and all come from Pew's American Trends panel, which is a large pool of people that they talked to about these surveys over time. Half were conducted online, the other half on phone with a real interviewer. And again, this kind of pool allows Pew to track changes in attitudes over time, and in this case on race, policing, all since the death of George Floyd. We're coming back with more here.
So I want to talk about that for a minute. Has there been positive change? Has there been, that's what I want to say. We've been gone 5 years, right? And I know a lot of people, and we all have our own life perspectives, right? We all have our own life opinions, and they all should be respected because they're all different and they're all important. But I can say this is that as I've seen it growing up from, North Minneapolis, and then growing up and finishing and becoming an adult in Rochester, there's such a difference because people don't understand or honestly don't want to see it or don't want to talk about it. And there is. Sometimes it goes by your color. Sometimes it goes by your wealth class. Sometimes it goes by, various other things. If you have a felony or, maybe they just don't like you. But then they always use that. Well, I have one black friend. Well, why are you hating this one black man? Why are you hating these other black people if you have this one black friend? If you have a black child? That's what I don't understand. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, a lot of people have asked me over, because, this Shiloh Hendricks, and I'm going to talk about this later. Actually, you know what? I'll bring it back because I can take it further with George Floyd. And the people that I marched with, the people that I see, the thing of it was, they say that they're by any means necessary. Protect all black women, no, it's not. They have an agenda, right? And I call them people activists because you don't hear them, you don't see what they're, unless the cameras are out, unless that's the only thing that has ever changed, because we're still doing galas and nothing's changed. There's so much fraud and waste. And I can see why the numbers have actually went down, because I want to say this is just ask yourself, was it a movement or was it just a moment? Right. And then what brought me to this as well is that I remember there's something that Fred Hampton is known by. You can jail a revolutionary, but you can't jail the revolution. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, because we have so many people out here talking about, I have a dream. But not enough people out here talking about by any means necessary. And that's crazy. That is crazy. That is crazy, 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 crazy. Because we're so divided. And it all comes down to if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat or what kind of politic views you have. Because I will tell you right now is that there's a big ass debate in Minnesota about the graduate rates because they're the highest, right? But then what they don't tell you is that Minnesota's standards have for graduation have been lowered. I'm not saying that to be proud of the graduation rates, right? But let's talk about how certain populations and certain groups, we have kids that can't even read who are graduating. That should be no way in hell they graduate. You know, it used to be not an option not to take their standardized test or whatever. Now you can just opt out of it. You can opt out so many things nowadays, and then they use them statistics against us and promote that, oh, we got way more graduates. But you're not talking about the people that can't read. You're not talking about the people that can't do basic math, but yet still they're graduating. How is that? Yeah, they don't have an answer because, well, you're racist. You're homophobic. No, I'm not. I'm not none of that. You can call me whatever. The simple fact of it is you call me them names because you don't want to talk about the truth. You don't want to talk about the fact that the narrative that they're feeding us is not the truth. Is that there's a bigger issue that you don't want to discuss, that you don't want to talk about, because layoff, fire, what's the difference if they got laid off or fired? Is there really a difference? That's what I want to know. Is there a difference between a layoff and being fired? Because even in just Minneapolis, I had a teacher. This is the whole crazy thing because I actually had 3 different ones, right? So one Minneapolis teacher told me that they were just laid off. Well, then another black teacher said that they fired over 100 teachers. They let go. I think he used the word let go. And then another teacher used they fired. So it's like, who do you believe? Because in my eyes, a layoff, that's an easy way of saying, hey, listen, we just fucked you over. Even though we don't want to call it a firing or letting go, because it makes it easier to say that, oh, we're just letting you go. It's a layoff. Instead of just telling people the truth. That's what I don't understand. You know, and it's the whole thing with I'm starting to, and maybe I don't 100 fully understand it, is LIFO, but to me, it's last in, first out the door. And that's legislation that they have. Last in, first out. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's the one crazy part is people want to say, oh, that's not the truth. It is. You just don't want to look at it, but it is the truth. It is the truth. No matter how much you want to deny it or how much you want to say that it's not happening, it is. It is happening. And you know, one thing that I wanted to get into as well is them doing seclusion rooms in schools. If people like, I'm a person that grew up with ISS. Maybe a lot of people don't know what that is, but ISS was in school suspension. And that's what I had. I had a lot of it. I was the type of kid that, I mean, every damn near most weekdays, I shouldn't say most, you know, my mom worked nights or whatever. So she would watch her little shows or whatever. But I was, especially when I got older, I was a roughneck, hood rat, whatever you want to call them kids. I didn't like being told no. I like doing what I wanted to do. So I was a kid that was seen as a behavioral. And they treated me like that. They definitely treated me like that. But I want to get into the seclusion rooms, and they are coming back. So the cage inside the classroom.
Advocates are hoping to stop an expansion of schools using seclusion rooms passed in the Senate education bill.
As Fox 9 reported just a couple of weeks ago, they've been banned since September for kids up through 3rd grade, but that may change again soon. Our Corin Hoggard is live at the Capitol tonight. Corin, this is an emotionally charged issue we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's right, Simone. We heard from a senator who said that her son actually benefited from being put in the seclusion room. And today we heard from advocates, including some educators, who say they regret using those rooms. Molly Hofford came to the Capitol to apologize to the children she physically restrained and put into her school seclusion room.
The 3rd grader whose medication for bipolar disorder just hadn't been figured out yet. I put him in there. The 1st grader who was going through the process of receiving his autism diagnosis and just couldn't appropriately communicate, and he'd melt down. I put him in that room.
Hofford told me she had an epiphany when her district sent her to a preschool and had her locking up those kids as well. Before Minnesota law restricted using seclusion rooms through the 3rd grade, 75% of secluded students were age 10 or younger.
It is young, small children that show up the most in the data because they can be overpowered, they can be picked up, they can be forced into a room.
Schools used seclusion more commonly on Black and biracial students. And when Fox 9 reported on abuse of seclusion rooms in 2017, we found schools often use the rooms as punishment.
And in no way do I condone any of that and believe that those misuses of seclusion should be addressed and must be addressed. However, in doing so, we eliminated a tool that is useful in rare situations for students like my own son.
Senator Judy Seeberger says her update to the law requires parental permission through 6th grade and still won't allow seclusion as discipline, but keeps the rooms as a tool of last resort. The House Education bill doesn't include the expansion, but that could change. Here's what state data shows us has changed since that law was implemented. The number of seclusion rooms across Minnesota schools has gone down 57% since that law started in September. The number of actual seclusions has gone down by 36%. So the advocates say this law is doing its job. Live at the Capitol, Corin Hoggard, Fox 9.
Man, Now, again, I don't know what kind of school your son goes to, Judy, but I will say this, is that in certain areas, that's weaponized. Yes, in some school districts, it's used appropriately. In others, it's not. And your son is white, Judy. White. And that's the one thing that I will always say, is that I hate bringing that up. But until we honestly have discussions about it, because we need to, because everybody's not treated equally. They are seen differently. We either see them different because of racism, we see it differently because of classism, we see it different between ableism. There's a whole lot of discriminatory ass shit that nobody wants to talk about. Y'all too busy talking about so much others. Well, I'm here, so that doesn't mean that it's not happening. Just because you live all the way out in, I don't know where Judy lives, but it's happening. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's crazy to me. So, it is going to be a rough one. I don't know how many people have been paying attention to the trials. It's been a tough ass week for Black people. The last couple of weeks. And honestly, I don't know how to feel anymore. This has really caused a drift and a rift between Black people, between races, between economies, between, I shouldn't even say economies. I don't know why I said that. Ethnic groups. It's caused a rift. No matter if it was about divide and conquer. It did. So I wanted to play something. I only wanted to play it for a few seconds, but I wanted to play this. So this has been a hot topic this morning. maybe since it's released or whatever, but Kanye West. I can't play much of it. I don't want to get a mark, whatever they call it. But I wanted to play what I can of Hail Hitler from Kanye West. Just to see to show y'all what people were talking about when it came to Hail Hitler.
People took my kids from me, then they froze my bank account. I got so much anger in me, got no way to take it out. Think I'm stuck in the matrix when I fudge my nitrous. Yes, I am a cuck, I like when people fuck on my bitch. The shit that I'm posting on Twitter, they telling me, hey, don't say that. How niggas can't see me in public, I'm driving an all-chrome Maybach. With all of the money and fame, I still can't get my kids back. With all of the money and fame, I still don't get to see my children. Niggas see my Twitter, but they don't see how I be feeling. So I became a Nazi, yeah, bitch, I'm the villain.
Nigga, how Hitler? Nigga, how Hitler?
They don't
Nigga weird.
understand the things I say
Hell
on
Hitler.
Twitter.
I ain't gonna do all that.
Nigga, how Hitler?
They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. All my niggas Nazis, nigga, how Hitler?
That's what it is, though. So that's what, and it's trendy. I shouldn't even say it's catchy, not trendy. Catchy. All my niggas is Nazis. So it is kind of catchy. But I want to get into the mistrial of Christopher Scher, right? Who killed Patrick Leola. And this is the crazy thing, because we see on video, and then it all comes down to court, and it comes down to a story. Because to be honest, it's not so much about facts. It's not so much about I don't know. And to be honest, it's kind of hard that we have 12 people saying that it was justified, or obviously it was a mistrial. So you found some people that thought he was guilty, and there was some people that thought he wasn't. So, and that's hard. And I feel like we always go through that in America. We always go through either mistrials or hung juries or not guilty verdicts. And even just like what I'm going to talk about after this with Tyree Nichols, is like in Memphis, they brought in a jury to be able to, they selected a jury from not in that, because Memphis is a very black dominant, predominant town and city, because Tyree Nichols, who died, was killed by black cops. So, but I'm gonna get into that. But here is Christopher Scher.
Sure is over.
What I'm going to do is declare a mistrial.
That decision today, as the jury hearing the case unable to reach a decision.
Their decision, we have to accept that, because we are the people.
Tonight, reaction from the prosecution, defense, and the family of Patrick Leoya.
We will keep fighting until we get justice. We get justice for Patrick.
We have multiple reporters covering every angle. Our team coverage starts right now.
Breaking news now on 13 on your side.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Elena Holland.
I'm Juliette Dragas. After a nearly 2-week-long trial, a Kent County jury could not reach a verdict in the second-degree murder trial of former Grand Rapids police officer Christopher Scher.
The judge declared a mistrial this morning, and we have team coverage today, breaking down what happened and hearing from Patrick Leoya's family.
We begin with 13 on your side's Micah Cho and the protests going on right now.
Yeah, hi guys. This is the busiest that we've seen it all morning, all day. We're right in, and you'll have to please forgive us if you do hear any language. Right now we are in the middle of a rally that's very emotional for many reasons, because of that verdict that came down earlier today. But again, we have maybe 2, 3, 4 dozen people of Patrick Leoya supporters that have gathered here outside of the courthouse, and they're all here, chanting support for the Leoya family. We have some street art here. We're going to kind of be careful a little bit of what we show you, but right here we have some chalk art here, justice for Patrick over there, no justice, no peace over here. Jacob, if you want to go to this square right here. And again, this is a lot more people than we've seen all day. Now, kind of going back to earlier this morning and how quiet that was, We waited outside the back of the courthouse for almost 2 hours as there was a pretty significant police presence. We were trying to figure out what that was all about, and that's actually kind of where we expected to see Christopher Schur exit the courthouse, but instead we saw what we believed to be jurors being shuttled back to their cars. And it wasn't until around noon that Schur left in a white van through a parking garage on the front side of the courthouse, where some Patrick Loyola supporters were present. And today we talked to a man named Didi who told us why he is still out here today, even after that verdict was sent down.
We plan on rallying today in support of the Loyola family and still in pursuit of justice for Patrick. A mistrial does not mean that we're done. We're still out here calling for police reform. It's been 3 years of this, so nothing's really new for us.
And around 3:30, we saw a little bit more action when a man pulled up to some Patrick Loyola family supporters right here on the corner, and they exchanged a few words with them. That man got back into his car, left, and then he crashed it about a block away. Police then later arrested him or took him away in handcuffs. Again, this protest started at around 5 o'clock, so just a few minutes ago, and it's been growing by the minute here. So we're expecting to still see some people out here later this afternoon into the early evening, and we'll be here until for the rest of our shows up until 6:30. For now, live in Grand Rapids outside the courthouse, Micah Cho for 13 on your side.
All right, Micah, thank you. Testimony in the Christopher Schur trial started on April 28th, with the case going to the jury on Monday. 13 on your side's Callie Lichter has been at the courthouse every day. She joins us now with the prosecutor's reaction to this mistrial. Callie.
While the trial may be over, the prosecution has left the door open for a potential retrial back in the courtroom. For Kent County Prosecutor Chris Becker, a mistrial was not the outcome the prosecution or Patrick Loyola's family hoped for.
What happened today is not what anybody was expecting or wanted. We're hoping for a verdict, and I think the family, I don't know if they've talked here, but they're extremely disappointed, as am I.
After 4 days of deliberation, the jury in the trial of former Grand Rapids police officer Christopher Schur told Judge Christina Mims they were deadlocked for the second time, with Judge Mims calling a mistrial. Becker knew this was a likely outcome.
Especially when you look across the country, there's a number of police-involved incidents where it ends up in a hung jury quite a bit. So we always knew there was a possibility. It's a difficult case.
And says this outcome was not the jury's fault.
I've never had a jury take that many notes and ask the amount of questions, and quite frankly, very good questions. So they were clearly engaged, clearly dedicated, and I appreciate their work they did.
This case now has 3 potential futures, all in the hands of Becker. He could retry the case, offer a plea deal, or dismiss the case. That decision will not come Thursday.
I'm not going to let this drag out. I mean, I'm going to be considerate of the community. I mean, this is a big decision, but I'm not going to rush through it. But I'm not going to sit here and it's not going to be June.
Becker also says he did not bring these charges out of public pressure, and he still has a good relationship with the Grand Rapids Police Department.
If I didn't believe in the case, I should have been trying it. It's a difficult case. This is not an easy case.
Becker says he will be taking into consideration the Loyola family's feelings and jury feedback when deciding the future of this case. So we could be hearing an update in this case in the coming weeks, and we'll be watching closely for when that decision is made. Live at the Kent County Courthouse, I'm Callie Lichter, 13 on your side.
After the mistrial was declared, attorneys on both sides had a chance to talk to the jury. The defense claims most of the jurors favored an acquittal. 13 on your side's Josh Albertus continues our live coverage downtown with more reaction from Christopher Schur's attorney. Josh.
Yeah, Juliet, the defense at this point is really just going to have to wait to see what decision Prosecutor Becker decides to make on the future of whether or not there will be a retrial or any other path forward here. But the defense attorney, when he spoke to reporters earlier, asserting this is not a situation, this is not a case of winners or losers.
My sense is that they worked very hard to come to a conclusion, and sometimes you just can't.
A hung jury in the trial of former Grand Rapids police officer Christopher Schur, who had been accused of murder in the death of Patrick Loyola.
He's been living with this for 3 years. He obviously wanted some resolution.
Now, the decision on whether or not to seek a retrial lies in the hands of the county prosecutor, who said Thursday he had not yet made a decision. But for Scher's lead defense attorney, he felt there should be no retrial, and that what he believed the jury signaled should be taken into consideration.
What better litmus test for whether or not something should be charged if whether or not he can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
As to where the jury may have indicated it was leaning, both on the charge of second-degree murder and the lesser included charge of voluntary manslaughter, Borgula describing what he felt was a signal.
It was communicated that it was there was always a majority for acquittal on both. I was asking for the judge to ask the jury whether they could, if they had reached unanimity as to count one, which was murder in the second degree, and she declined. She's not required to do that under the rules.
While the prosecution looks to a decision, sure, Borgula said, will likely be waiting and considering what the future will look like now.
I think he's probably going to continue with the status quo, you know, and see how things unfold.
But following the jury's announcement, Borgula clarifying, in this case, it's not winners or losers.
We cannot declare victory because there really is no winning here. A man died, and that is a very serious thing. Christopher Scher is happy that the jury didn't determine that he's criminally responsible for that death. But, you know, it's hard to say that we feel like this was a victory.
Eve Online.
See, in my eyes, I feel like he should be, you know what I'm saying? He should be, all these officers, you know, that's the one thing of it is, of like, how do you, I just don't, I don't understand it. And there's such a thin line between right and wrong when it comes to, you know, qualified immunity and to other things.
And so we will be waiting in the days and weeks to come what decision the prosecutor will make regarding this case, and we'll keep you updated every step of the way. For now, outside the courthouse, Josh Albertus, 13 on your side.
Josh, thank you. The outcome of the trial wasn't what the family of Patrick Loyola had hoped for, but they still say the fight isn't over. Their 10 Your Side's Lauren Baker heard from the family. And Lauren, what did they say?
Well, after the decision was made in court today through an interpreter, the family says they won't give up until they get justice for their son. After years of hopes and prayers,
To see that all these 3 years where we have been waiting for this case to be settled.
the family of Patrick Loyola says a mistrial in the Christopher Scher case has reopened past wounds.
I want to say that it hurts my family, my wife. We are bleeding. We are in pain.
Through an interpreter, the family spoke moments after the judge declared the mistrial in a press conference. Not only wanting justice, Loyola's mom says her family was hoping Scher would apologize for what happened when he took the stand.
I thought he would say, coming from his mouth, was going to say, I'm sorry to the family, to apologize for what he did wrong, but he didn't. And it seemed like the way that he portrayed himself, it was like he had no remorse. He had no guilt. He didn't care.
But with the potential of another trial, Loyola's parents say this outcome won't stop them from fighting for justice for their son.
We are not going to be tired. I didn't give up on my son. And we are not going to be tired until when we find the justice for our son.
We were not able to speak to Scher's family. They left the courtroom very quickly after the trial was ruled a mistrial, but we have reached out to the family to see if they would comment on this outcome. The Loyola family still has a civil lawsuit against Scher. Their attorney, Ben Johnson, says he expects movement on their case to begin soon.
I hope so. Because to be honest, I feel like that's the only recourse that sometimes that we have. Now, if you see here is in Memphis, and a lot of people don't like. That's the one crazy thing that is happening right now is the fact that you got all these trials going on, and is there justice? You know what I'm saying? Is there going to be that? You know, oh, we're going to get justice. We're going to do all of that, and. You know, so I want to go into Tyree Nichols in Memphis, Tennessee.
Come on, Pop.
How's everybody doing today?
Right. Not great.
I don't know yet. Well, yesterday, the world saw the verdict. And it was definitely not what we expected. It was definitely not what was shown in that video.
Right.
It was definitely not what the prosecutors presented to the jury. I couldn't speak to the press yesterday. I had too many emotions. But today, I'm going to speak to the press. For my son to be brutally killed by 5 police officers, black, white, green, yellow, purple, it does not make a difference.
There you go. Well,
They were here to serve and protect, not to beat and kill. When this journey first started, my wife used to tell me, she said, Rodney, don't be political. Mama. After yesterday, I have to be political.
Well, go ahead, Pop. Go ahead, Pop. Go ahead, right there. That's it.
You know, it's one name we have not heard today.
teacher like a feeling.
His name is Donald Trump.
There you go. Hey.
Donald Trump has put a stain on this country.
Yeah. Well.
He has brought white supremacy to the forefront.
Yeah.
You know, me and my family was going to move to Chattanooga and retire.
Oh my God.
I know more.
That has been scratched off the table. We ain't even go visit Chattanooga no more. The hell with living there.
Come on, right.
But the crazy thing about Chattanooga is there's black folks in Chattanooga.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So how you go to Chattanooga and still find 14 white people?
Yes. Yes.
This has been a very long journey. And as the judge said, we were not happy with the verdict in the federal charges, but at least we got something. So how the hell do we have a fucking trial?
Come on with it, Pop.
Mama. Tell it, Rock. That's holy.
And not one count.
Come on, preacher. Sham trial. That's holy. Sham.
Not one count out of 21.
Thank you.
You cannot tell me.
Stay here, people. Stay here. Stay here. Stay here.
You cannot tell me that they did not intervene with my son. They did not stop those officers from throwing extra punches. They did not stop those officers from making extra kicks. You cannot tell me that they could not get charged with telling the paramedics when they arrived on the scene that my son was hit in the head with haymakers and kicked in the head and was not guilty for that charge.
Right.
So of 21 charges, nothing they found guilty for. So, you know, God has opened up.
Come on now. Teach on the
When I
God.
come to speak.
Come on now.
But that's okay. Because ain't nothing but a little water.
Come on now.
Water don't hurt nobody.
I said water ain't gonna hurt nobody.
Baptize, clean it up.
But I just want to say that they are going to jail.
Yeah.
Okay? So we do have a little solace in our family for that reason and that reason only right now, that they are going to jail. And so for their family to stand up there and hoop and holler and flaunt that in front of our face,
Right.
Come on now.
they go get theirs too.
That's right.
I'm not going to speak on the mayor. I'm not going to speak on the police chief. I know you did, and they should be gone. But I'm not going to speak on it. I'm going to let other people do that. But my wife is telling me to get the hell off the stage. So I'm going to honor her wishes so she can get up here. But thank you guys for coming out. I love the activists. I love my...
Man, there was some very, very... And this is the crazy part for me, right? Is when will we start seeing, like, when is wrong going to be wrong? That's what I want to understand is, like, what is wrong? What does wrong look like? Because if everything is depending on your politics, depending on so many other things, it can be seen as right. So what is actually wrong? Because if so many things are actually starting to be right, what is wrong? Because our conflict of interest, our ethics, I will tell you like this is that, and I will debate any man, black man in America. And you come tell me I don't care if you're Jonathan whack-ass Mason, that's the one crazy Don Allen or any of them niggas, right? Because the part that I don't understand is that black people have profited off our pain. Our own people have profited off our pain. And then when you see things like Ryan and Rodney Hinton, I'm not mad. Because at the end of the day, I was commenting somewhere this morning on and I commented back to somebody. I'm not mad. You know what the crazy? A lot of people should be standing up for what Rodney did. Yes, it wasn't that officer that killed his son, but it was an officer. And y'all take all the same oath. You take all the same oath. So we don't take one as being from the streets. We don't take one. And I know a lot of people will tell, well, he was retired. Okay, he had a uniform on. Stop. Who cares if he was retired? A lot of you niggas ain't by any means necessary. A lot of you niggas are tear jerkers. That's all you're looking for is some drama. You're not looking for change. You're not looking for reform. You want to start, you hope that there's an issue going on so that we don't get to a solution. Because the more that we're deflected, the more that we're distracted, the further it gets away from change, from making that possible. Let's talk about that. That's the one crazy part of it is, and I really don't understand niggas. I really don't understand, especially when it comes down to our politics, or it comes down to, here's the one thing of it is, because I understand it. A lot of y'all are not going to come out and say things because you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. I'm going to be 100. There's a lot of niggas out here that know shit and aren't going to say anything because they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. I don't know how many people I talk to on a daily basis that it really like, damn, why don't they become public with it? But then I understand it because they get paid by them. Why? Here's the one thing of it. Why would they want to? They're okay with somebody else interrupting the problem and you know what I'm saying, making an issue, but they don't want it to be them. They don't want it to be them. And that's what saddens me about America, right? That's what really, really, really saddens me about America is that we're okay with it as long as it doesn't affect our home. We need more people out here that even though you're not going through it, you need to act like you are. You need to Put yourself in their shoes. That's the one thing that I can never understand, right? Is that if you've been beat by the police, I can understand because I've had that happen. I've never been killed. So I can't, to be honest, I can't put myself in somebody else's situation of, let's say, even Dante Wright, George Floyd. I can't do none of that. I can't put myself in the family shoes because I have never lost somebody from my skin by the police. I shouldn't say my skin, my blood. I haven't. You know what I'm saying? Besides my uncle, Willie Francis, and who that's the one crazy part. And maybe my fight would be different or whatever, but if I knew him a little bit more, if I knew him personally, this happened way before I was even alive or I was even born. But what I want to say is that just because you're not going through something doesn't mean that somebody else isn't. It doesn't mean that they're not. And that's what I don't understand is because we stand in solidarity, we do marches, we do rallies. But what about justice? We're okay with payments, but what about justice? When are we going to start seeing about the Kim Potters still working for police departments, still training officers? And yet aren't making an uproar about that. It's only about when it's in the news. What about when the Philando Castile's killer tried to come back up here and teach? That's the only time. But then yet when it comes down to voting for these people, we don't think about Marvin Haynes. We don't think about Mayan Burrell. We don't think about Cornelius Jackson. We don't think about the people that have been done wrong by this system because we still stand with the Keith Ellisons. We stand with the Amy Klobuchars because instead of doing the right thing and getting them out of office, we vote for them. That's the only reason why. Even with Arredondo, this man came out with a whole book, but didn't talk about George Floyd that much, the situation. Because here's the thing of it is, this, how come you're not hearing about the fact that Katie Blackwell, the Minneapolis lieutenant who sued Alpha News and Liz Collin for that documentary of the fall of Minneapolis, We Are Lying, that she has to pay them $75,000 because her case was dismissed. They didn't defame her. They didn't say she lied because she got up there and lied to you people. She got up there and lied to a jury of people that convicted her. And he should have been convicted. I am not saying that he shouldn't have been, right? Because there's so many other people that have been done wrong by Derek Chauvin. It wasn't just George Floyd. It was John Pope, Zoya Code. We allowed this behavior to happen. We allowed these to go on. And then when Arredondo could have maybe did something to Derek Chauvin, he didn't do anything. So then we've seen more names. We've seen more bodies. We've seen more injustice. And even with Brian O'Hara, even with different council members, does anything really change? No. Just like in St. Paul, you're probably going to hear about today of how rent control didn't really go anywhere. They didn't really tighten it. Are they fighting for poor people? Because I will tell you like this, wow, all these CEOs and these title people make hundreds of thousands of dollars. The cashiers, the stockers, the people that do the jobs them rich people don't want to do, they want to make sure y'all ain't compensated. They want to put restrictions on maybe your taxes. Here's the things that people you don't even see it or you don't want to realize. There are so many things that go on that even if you don't pay attention to politics, it affects your life. Just like you're seeing right now in Minnesota, where it comes with the schools, we're getting budget cuts, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to our schools, all because of our leaders' policies that affect us. Even though we don't want to play a part in it, we don't care because we got to go to work. We got to put food on the table. We got to pay rent. We got to pay the light bill. We got to pay Wi-Fi. We got to pay internet. I think I said Wi-Fi, internet, same thing. You know what I'm saying? We have to take care of what's important. So then the people that really, who are paid to make sure that the little person is okay, even though you're not heard, you know what I'm saying? Or they're getting rid of programs of civil rights departments and complaints in schools. Even though we're seeing an all-time high in racial incidents, they want to get rid of those departments. They want to get rid of the people that help, and like Red Wing or Rochester. And that's what's crazy. That's what's really, 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 really wild to me. And I don't know what it's gonna do, because I think we're too far along with all the budget cuts coming to Section 8, all the budget cuts coming to SNAP benefits. You know, I honestly do believe that I don't think it's enough to make people realize that we're too far along in it. I'm not saying that it's too late. I'm saying is that there's a lot of individuals that when they realize it, that they're a part of it, what they can and what they can't, I don't know, but maybe people will change when their backs are against the wall. I mean, to be honest, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how our world has evolved. I don't know how our world is really paying attention, because I think unless a lot of people are affected, you won't see an uproar. Even what you're seeing in like Seattle or New York, because there are big protests. I mean, if you're not seeing what's going on in the country right now, just because it's not happening in your neck of the woods, doesn't mean that it's not happening. It means that you're not paying attention to what's going on around you.
That's what those with the Rochester branch of the NAACP are calling for in the wake of a viral video of a woman using a racial slur against a child.
But realistically, what can be done? Well, we sat down with a lawyer to find out. ABC 6 News reporter Alex Kowalski joins us live now in the newsroom. And Alex, we know that charges have actually been referred to the county attorney's office in this particular case, but do we know if it will actually go anywhere?
Maisie, Robin, members of the NAACP tell me they want Shiloh Hendricks to be prosecuted, but the lawyers I spoke with have different opinions on if that's going to happen.
I am pissed off.
I don't know why.
You know, there's a lot of anger, righteous anger, you know, to this. Not just for me, but everybody.
It's that anger that's pushed those with the NAACP to demand Shiloh Hendricks be held accountable after a viral video showed her calling a man and a child a racial slur.
That's what we're calling for her to be charged.
But whether criminal charges can actually happen depends on who you talk to.
I think the prosecutor's going to have a bit of a tough time getting past First Amendment issues, you know, constitutional challenges right off the bat.
Other lawyers believe it's a case that could stick.
The charges that would be brought by the city attorney's office here would be based on personally abusive epithets that are inherently likely to produce a violent reaction.
In other words, Bill Murray with the Schatz law firm says words alone are not sufficient probable cause, but the words in combination with Hendricks' alleged behavior could be.
That's being personally directed towards a child in an aggressive manner by an adult woman.
Inside the NAACP's town hall, some in the community are demanding people stand up against racism.
You see something going, you got to point something out, you got to do something, right? Because if you expect somebody else to do it, it never gets done, right?
It's called the bystander effect, and those calling for justice say it must be eliminated. Rochester police have referred charges to the Olmsted County Attorney's Office, but it's unclear what, if anything, will happen.
And I know this is the one thing that I want to talk about, because I know in the community, in the world right now, this is a hot topic, right? And I will say this, right? You're having Shiloh Hendricks has over almost $800,000, and that's not even private donations, because I'm sure people have privately donated, right? The same thing with the Somalian family and the Somalian boy, right? And a lot of people are asking me, well, why are you mad about it? Well, I'm going to tell you why. I'm not mad about it. What I'm mad about is that we're making us spectacle about the nigger word, something that we hear every day, but we're not worried about actions. We're worried about words, but not actions. And I've seen a lot of people have a different kind of perspective. And that's what I've seen, right? People that more lean liberal are in an uproar. But people that lean conservative and Republican are a little bit different. I can say this is that there is conservative men that are sticking up for Shiloh. I'm not going to stick up for Shiloh. Where I stick up for Shiloh is the people sending death threats. Is that it's a word. It's a word that y'all hear every day. Every day. And y'all don't get in an uproar. You don't. I want to be honest. I think a lot of it is that people have, and I'm not speaking for a lot of people, right? I'm just saying is that if you look at behaviors, people only get in an uproar when the media puts it out there. Because when regular everyday people are talking about it, we're not talking about it. But when the media puts it out there, then we have discussions. Or if something goes viral. Because any other incident like this that has happened in a park all over America, we haven't talked about it. We haven't talked about the Shiloh Hendricks all over America that have called little black boys the nigger word at playgrounds. And to be honest, I don't even think this, I'm going to be honest here. This is my full 100 full opinion, right? And I'm going to be honest here, right? I know I'm probably going to get a lot of blowback for this, and I don't care. I honestly see this as a situation that got blew out of proportion, right? I'm not going to say that it wasn't racism. It definitely wasn't racism. I'll say is that it was a misunderstanding, miscommunication, if anything. The hatred maybe was there because of the political world that we're in. You know, and first of all, he didn't speak English. He was speaking a language that maybe I'm pretty sure she didn't understand. Why aren't we having discussions about that? Why aren't we having discussions about how we can educate each other so that we don't have these incidents again? Because it's people getting in an uproar and wanting to get, oh, I want to be violent, or I would have did this, I would have did that. Come on, stop it. We hear this shit every day. When our own kids have went through it, nobody did anything. And I can name off multiple niggas that their kids have gone through racial incidents, but all of a sudden y'all are in an uproar over Shiloh Hendricks. I don't get it. So what are you mad about? Shouldn't you be more mad at your own situation? Shouldn't you? I want to tell people like this: if the shoe fits, wear it. Because the whole thing of how are you judgmental about what Rodney did? Because you don't have the guts to do what Rodney did. I can stand behind that shit. Why aren't we standing behind people? And yes, 2 wrongs don't make a right. But how many wrongs do we got to watch happen and nothing gets done? We don't make them wrongs into a right. We keep on turning them wrongs into wrongs. That's what I can say about the whole Rodney situation. 2 wrongs don't equal a right. But I will tell you this, is that we're not turning wrongs into rights. We're turning wrongs into even more wrongs. Honestly, what has changed since Minneapolis paid $27 million? Nothing. We're still dealing with the same shit. Even though Derek Chauvin was convicted, we're still not, because I will tell you, there's so many narratives. I will say it like this. We make the innocent, the media, KSTP, WCCO, Star Tribune, they make the innocent look guilty and the guilty look innocent. What more do I need to say? So you're in this here, and that's the one part I will never understand, right? Because the media isn't easier out in the rural areas. And they don't want, and there's so much corruption out here and things that they don't cover. But then when things happen in Minneapolis, they want to talk about that. You know, that's the one thing. I don't know any media station that has not talked about Shiloh Hendricks because it's clickbait. They can bring up their ratings talking about Shiloh Hendricks. They can bring up their ratings so that everybody's talking about Shiloh Hendricks. Because what does it do? It attracts attention. You know, I had a great conversation with a man at Mayo Clinic. I had appointments yesterday, so I was at Mayo Clinic, and I had a conversation with the man. To be honest, I think this is the first time that I was having. He was like me, but he had an accent. I will say that I didn't ask him if he was African. I didn't ask him if he was Somalian, Nigerian. We just had a conversation, and it was about Shiloh Hendricks. In that whole situation, because I was in Rochester, Minnesota, and I'm in the waiting room at Mayo Clinic on the 5th floor in the Gonda building, having a conversation with what America likes to call black man. And it was crazy to me. And he was a male employee, and we sat here talking. And I can honestly tell that he wasn't from here. I didn't ask him primarily, but I could tell by his accent that he was not from here. But just talking about the Shiloh, and I could see of him growing up, he didn't have to go through those kind of incidents. He was like, well, I didn't grow up with those kind of people. And, I didn't grow up with those kind of incidents, or, we were worried about other things. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And it was more of you didn't see that kind of discrimination. You didn't see that kind of hate because there was so many people that looked like them. I don't know if he was Somalian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Sudanese. I didn't ask none of that, right? But the part that I did state is that what Shiloh did was wrong. Right. But what there was an uproar of was that in my eyes, and I'm going to say this, I'm pro-black. I am pro-black. And if you don't know what that means, then you need to go Google it. Because I'm not pro-black in the sense that what the US government tells us that what black is. I'm pro-black American. I'm pro-black American. Not hating against Somalian Americans. I'm not hating against. No, there's a difference of they not like us. So when that little 5-year-old boy was called something by that, you get in the uproar because they tell us to, because he was called a nigger. Well, how many other little boys and girls are called nigger every day and we don't get in the uproar? We don't even change it. But what we try to change is that the only reason why we're even still talking about Shiloh Hendricks is because of all the death threats. Where nobody's even really talking about the video anymore. I don't even care about, I shouldn't even say that because I hate the word nigger. I hate the way that people use it because it does cause a deflection. It does cause a distraction into getting to the main goal. The same way what it is at our state legislature. Right? They don't like talking about the incidents that happened that got us here. They don't like talking about what happened in 2023. They don't like talking about what happened in 2020. Or they like to talk about what happened in 2016 and 2014 because it all links. Because y'all don't want to talk about it. It needs to be talked about. And that's wild to me. Of how we don't have conversations about how did we get here? How did we get here? Because it just didn't happen overnight. And how much, this is the one crazy part of how many stories of names, because I don't feel bad. That's the one crazy part is I don't think Rodney did anything wrong. Rodney Hinton, because until your blood is taken away, I can't tell that man how to feel. I can't tell that man how he should have, what his actions should have been like, because I've never have been through it. I've seen other mothers come up here and stand behind Rodney. He didn't make, here's the thing of it, what they'll say, right? Not that they don't disagree with his actions, but that he took a person's life that had nothing to do with taking, but because he was a cop. I don't disagree with that. And maybe I didn't describe it in the best way, but I don't disagree with that. Because here's the one thing is that what I took from the Bible is an eye for an eye. And how much, but see, y'all want to keep on going Martin Luther King. Well, you turn the other cheek, I'm so tired of that. Because I can tell you like this, I don't know how many incidents, situations. I was born in 1977. How many is that? Probably thousands. And then even of others of like the move bombing. And we're still seeing all this shit today. But because we're past 1985, that was 30 years ago. You're coming up on the anniversary of them. And my next podcast, my whole episode is going to be about the movement. Because that does need to be spotlighted. So does the Black Panther Party. I'm going to talk about them type of movements because why did they try to eradicate them? And why do they try to cripple them, but yet spotlight organizations like Black Lives Matter or LGBTQ+, but whatever. I ain't even trying to say all that. Why? And then they try to make it seem like everything that we do is wrong. They try to demonize us. They try to make us individuals that we're no longer a part of. We don't even know that person, but yet we're still judged like we are those people. And again, like I will never understand it. I will never understand it. Never understand it. I'm looking for another video. There was one. Yeah. So that's I don't understand how they say that he was in the. They say he was retired and all that, but then they end the watch and all that shit. I don't understand that. And that Blue Lives Matter shit is crazy as hell. I hear it's Democracy Now. It's about Tyree Nichols. I'm gonna play that. Hold on, because I know I ain't shared it. But there's something that people should pay attention to because I'm going back to Tyree Nichols and I'm gonna end it with this. But I'm gonna come back and talk after this is over with and we'll get up out of here. But yeah, this is crazy as hell. So this is Democracy Now, and this is about Tyree Nichols.
Independent journalism at democracynow.org/give. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show in Memphis, Tennessee, where the family of Tyree Nichols joined supporters to protest and grieve Thursday after jurors Wednesday unanimously acquitted 3 former Memphis police officers of the murder of Tyree Nichols, a 29-year-old black father who died after the officers brutally beat him during a traffic stop that was caught on video. For more, we go to Memphis. We're joined by Amber Sherman, community organizer, member of the official Black Lives Matter Memphis chapter, and host of the podcast, The Law According to Amber. Welcome back to Democracy Now!, Amber. You were out there with the family yesterday as people held a memorial vigil and protests. Can you respond to the jury's acquittal of the 3 officers? Not to say they won't serve time in jail, because there were also federal charges that they faced along with other officers.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think that a lot of us were shocked. I thought they would at least be found guilty on a few charges, but boy, did they prove me wrong. I was like, okay, never mind then. But I do feel like them being found guilty on all of the charges really does embolden the Memphis Police Department to feel
Acquitted
like
of all the
now
charges.
they don't even have to take their
Acquitted of all the charges.
acquitted. Really emboldens them to just feel like they can do whatever they want, and they can really just leave their body cameras on. It doesn't even matter, because if you see it on camera, they're still going to find you not guilty of the charges and you'll be acquitted.
And can you remind our audience what happened to Tyree when he was just stopped for a traffic stop?
Yeah, so Tyree was stopped by the Scorpion Unit, which is a type of task force here in Memphis. That task force has since been disbanded, but there's similar task force that exists still. So they're still doing these types of stops where they are targeting people in certain types of cars, in certain neighborhoods, specifically Black neighborhoods, because they said that they want to target high crime areas, but that area that he was in had only had one homicide in the entire year before. So to me, it looks like they're targeting Black people in Black neighborhoods. And he was stopped by an officer. He was immediately yanked out of his car and yelled at. He's asking them why they're stopping him. They don't tell him anything. They started hitting him. Their body cameras were still on at that point. And then at some point, he is able to escape them from beating him and runs down the street towards his house. And then they find him on a corner at Castlegate and Ross, which is in Memphis, in East Memphis, and there's a sky cam above him, which are these cameras that the police department used to surveil our neighborhoods, actually. But this sky cam actually had AI technology that helped the camera to move around, so it actually moves as they're beating him. And you can see from multiple angles that multiple officers are kicking him in the head, they're hitting him in the body, they tried to spray him with pepper spray, but sprayed themselves, so then they get even more angrier and continue to hit him. And he is at one point just lifeless, laying there, just being hit. And they're using all the excuses in the world about how, this is their training and he was resisting. But you can clearly see on video that he's not.
I just want to say that the former officers, Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith, were found not guilty of murder in the state trial. But in a separate federal case, they were found guilty of witness tampering and await sentencing for that conviction. And two others were also convicted on the federal charge and pleaded guilty to state charges, will avoid trial. But they are all possibly expected to serve time in prison. In this last minute that we have, Amber, the response of the family, what they're calling for at this point?
Well, I just want to also add that Demetrius Haley was found guilty of excessive force, deliberate interference for medical intervention, and witness tampering, not just witness tampering. And he's facing up to life in federal prison.
Well, Amber Sherman, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Community organizer, member of the Eshel Black.
Damn. I hope that I will say this is that state, that's the whole crazy thing. Why is there such a difference between state and federal? That's one thing I will never understand. Is the difference between how federal laws are and how state laws are, because it's completely wild to me of how the feds are always hold people accountable, but it's never state, barely. But with that being said, man, I hope y'all have a great day. It's Friday. Get out there. It's supposed to be a nice weekend. Get out there and enjoy the weather, enjoy the niceness, the sun, the wind. But also, and next week, I have an appointment Monday, so I won't be on Monday. But I will be talking heavily about Minnesota. I know Monday Tuesday we're gonna do something about MOVE and the MOVE movement. But then the rest of that week, I want to talk about the Minnesota legislature. I want to talk about the budget, and I want to, because it's the last week, and I really want to get into that. And there's a lot of things coming up. So be watching. We picked the Pope yesterday. It was an American one from Chicago. So anything is possible, right? Like you said, anything. So with that being said, winter fell, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. And here is Micah Emmerich in medicine. And I will see y'all next week.
Do you feel tired? Do you lack motivation? Do you just don't feel like your dreams can even be a reality? But then I got resting for you. It's super simple.
dreams can never be a reality.
Right here, just a simple pill is all you need to do. Makes all your dreams come true. Now 555 medicine to get yours today.
I like it when you tell me that you need me. Like it's very important. Tell me you love me more so I can tell you that you need it. And call whenever I'm bored. Say, what are you tripping for? Maybe we should take it easy, easy. Trials and tribulation, sinking and deprivated. You thought I was a one, but maybe we should go face it. Are you gonna make me say it? I saw the look on your face. The bitter truth, it settles in. Truth is, you don't learn the taste of your medicine, yeah. I saw the look on your face, the bitter truth, it settles in. Truth is, you don't learn the taste of your medicine. Look, I guess this has been a long time coming. Spent a long time running away from the different situations you turn